Hello, Fabio. I am so happy that you accepted my invitation to come to We Can Learn to Learn vlog because you present a perspective that is so needed and you're very articulate. And both you and I, we share a mission to enable all learners to thrive in schools. And for that, you have created an organization called Chessability New York City, right?
Correct.
And so tell us a little bit about how you came about that, why you founded Chessability New York City, and what your interest is in education.
Well, I founded Chessability at New York City because I always felt that the way I was taught chess, because I grew up playing chess as a kid, and I learned differently than a lot of students that took up the game. I was very, kind of I wouldn't say a passive player, but I was more of a defensive player because, a lot of kids growing up, I was born 87, so a lot of kids I was a 90s kid, so a lot of kids in the 90s, they wanted to play like Gary Kasparov, who's the current world champion. But Gary Kasparov was a very tactical and aggressive player. And for me, I needed the game to be slowed down a little bit. So it's like, okay, well, let's like, hold on a second. I need a little solid foundation first. And
Yeah.
then I'll get into the complications, which is later in the game, which we call the middle game. And so, so therefore, like I was kind of a late bloomer in the game. Like I had the talent, but I needed the right system and foundation. And I was very fortunate that when I got my first chess coach, he gave me that foundation. So I had to learn differently than a lot of the students for that reason. Because, and again, at the time, when someone's the world champion of chess, everyone wants to emulate their style. It's
Sure.
normal.
Yeah.
So, I don't hold it against the other coaches that tried to work with me, but in the past. But the one that made sense for me, his name is Light Bujani. He helped me create my current style of play, which is very positional, very solid, and uh, and because that helped me become a nationally ranked player and play chess at a high level, I figured this could also work for people that are special needs. So I figured, and so for the record, it has worked very well with a lot of my students. Because I've been again running my business for 13 years because I founded it in 2012. So you kind of realize like when you go through certain things, like don't be surprised if other people may be going through the same kind of things and they may learn in this very similar fashion that you do because you are a primary source. It's your life experience and that can't be easily duplicated.
Correct. So let's lean into that. The so your organization, Chessability, is for individuals who learn differently, and you're very dedicated to students with disabilities, and so I'm an integrative learning specialist. And I know that the earlier you start, the better the outcome it is, the student has. And so, how early can you teach chess to individuals with disabilities, particularly autism, that you have a lot of experience in?
Well, the youngest students I work with currently are preschoolers. So I've worked with, in some of my classes, I've had students as young as 2 or 3 years old.
I love
Now,
it.
Now, they're not special needs kids, but if I were to reach out to a special needs kid, I'd probably start them at around age 5, just to be on the safe side because, they I think they need to like, there needs to be a little bit of a waiting time. And again, it's not a, knock on their intelligence. It just like again, I think that their brains like, take a while to form a little bit. Now,
Yeah.
are there preschool kids with special needs that are capable of learning the game? Of course. But again, they have to stand out, individually. I have to like kind of monitor them on a one-on-one basis to like kind of
Right.
figure it out because with me, I started the game when I was 8 years old, and the game that I played prior to chess was checkers because all the pieces move the same. I don't think I could have handled a game like chess like earlier than 8 years old. And again, it's not a knock on myself. It's just that's just how it was. Like less rules,
Right.
easier for me to learn. It's like, oh, checkers, they all move the same. So,
Yes.
whereas with chess, like you have six different pieces and they each move differently. That's pretty complicated that was pretty complicated for me when I started off. So, it's all about like simplifying everything. So, that's why. But yeah, I do think you got to see it as an individual basis. So I don't want to say like, preschool kids that have learned disabilities can't learn chess. It's just that realistically, a lot of them won't be able to. There just needs to be a little waiting period.
As an individual with disabilities, how would you describe your journey through school, starting in elementary school? And then, really, if you don't mind, focusing on what your feelings were, if you had any. Like, what did the teachers behavior towards you or other students' behaviors towards you in a learning environment affect you, affect your emotions, affect your energy?
I was very blessed that I was in special education and but again, at the same time, like this was in the 90s. So special ed was not nearly as advanced as it was like, like we're talking about, 30 years later, it's a lot of decades we're talking about. So, I started special ed when I was 5 years old. So we're talking about 1992. And at that time, this was almost, I think this was like, maybe 20 years after the, New York, American Disabilities Act, which was in the 70s. So there was still relatively new. We're talking about, so when I was a special needs student, they put me with kids with ADD, ADHD. It's like, let's just put them in all in one class, you know?
Yeah,
You know, Today, everything is much more specialized. Now it's like, oh, if we have kids with autism, we'll put them in a completely separate school than kids with ADD or ADHD. There's much more distinctions, but during my generation, it wasn't able that distinct because there's so much more research that need to be done. So, but again, I got the best education that I had at the time, and I was very grateful for it because that's why, I'm able to live a good life as a result. But it was targeted early, and that's the key. My learning disability was targeted early because I didn't fit into a mainstream school, and so again, it really helps. The earlier you go for it, the better. And but when I was a student there, I had some good instructors who were really patient with me and that wanted to help me get attached to the subject matter. So, but what I liked was that there was I was very in my own world at that. I do remember being in my own world at the time. Like like I said, when it came to the intellectual subjects, my teachers were all very good. But when it came to understanding me emotionally, that's where the challenge was because it's like no one ever really asked me like, okay, why are you in your own world? Like, why do you like to retreat in a fantasy world?
yeah.
Because for me, that was a coping mechanism. And, you know, the message I got sometimes was, be aware of what's around you. But sometimes it's like, well, I'm thinking to myself, well, why should I be though? The real world is terrifying.
I
The real world is very disorganized, chaotic.
yeah.
And like I said, I wish that I had an instructor that helped me understand the emotional part of having a learning disability because I had some of them that understood it, but it was like they understood it only partially. The best ones understood it, at least made an effort, and that helped me become a better student, which I'm very grateful for. But it wasn't deep enough. It was that, again, and it's not the fault of the teachers. They each had their masters, so they were very highly trained. Like if they want us to get something done, like objectively, whether it's doing our homework or learning at a good pace, they did a phenomenal job. And I'm very grateful to the teachers I had. But in terms of being connected to myself and understanding my fears and understanding why I found the real world so terrifying, that's where, there needs to be a lot more, work that needs to be done in those areas. And again, you know, and even today, I find that that's also very lacking, even though we're talking about 30 years later, it's there needs to be more of an emphasis on like why kids just because I've noticed it too. Like when I give certain special needs kids private chess lessons, a lot of times they escape to a tablet, they escape to a screen, they find again, they still avoid homework when they can. It's like, oh man, I gotta do this. But they don't, no one really asks them why they want to retreat to a different world, why they want to retreat to a fantasy world. No one really kind of, and which is really shocking. And even the kids' parents don't really truly understand why they do it.
So suppose I was there at the time and I asked you, Fabio, why are you escaping? What would you have told me? And I mean, you said that the world is so terrifying. And then I would say, well, what about the world is so terrifying and how can I help you? What would you have said?
I would have said, everything comes at me so fast.
Uh-huh.
I feel like, I'm running a race and I'm, kind of like trying to run on foot against everyone and, trying to run a race running on foot, whereas everyone's speeding by me in a Ferrari or or sports car.
Okay. And so are you talking about the content, the pace, the intensity, and the duration of the material that was presented to you?
Yeah, that and also, you know, also a lot of the, language based questions. A lot of like I was very good at math, for example, but I struggled when it came to, word problems. Even to this day, I'm not a fan of word problems.
Me neither. I
I
join
just,
you.
I just want the numbers, they're and again, just less overwhelming. Just that's why I kind of never warmed up to languages too much because it gave me almost like PTSD when it came to like speech and language processing. Again, it all depends on your learning disability, but all I know is that you know again, like it's just natural as human beings to like avoid anything that makes you feel inadequate. You
Inadequate,
know,
right, like not good enough.
exactly.
Right, right. And so, again, if I was your teacher, what could I have done for you that would have made it better?
I would have been like, what do like what does the question really ask of me? I think that's a big one, and also using less words and maybe more pictures, make things more visual. That's the key, like play to my strengths. Like
Yes,
I understand, like, you want me to be, I always believe in a well-rounded education. I believe like being good at history, math, English, science. I believe like you want to do your best in all those fields and all these subjects. And
yes.
of course, when we get older, we specialize, but I think it's really about playing to people's strengths. Like you could train a kid to be good at all four subjects or all the core curriculum we call it. If you kind of reach them the way they process information.
Right.
Also, I wish someone asked me, like, okay, how do you learn best, or what makes things easier for you, or why do you like this subject over another? I think also people don't ask the right questions, because because you know, someone, sometimes people, I was lucky if one of my intuitive teachers said, why do you like the subject so much? But I don't think enough people also ask me, like, why do you avoid this subject,
Hmm.
Because that's what I didn't hear enough of. Like, why is this subject so terrifying for you,
Yeah.
And because the thing is, special needs students, and a lot of us, we're extremists, and I mean that in a positive sense. Because when we find a subject that makes us feel good about ourselves, that give us self-esteem and self-respect, we
Yes.
gravitate towards it like the way a child would gravitate towards a parent.
Yeah.
It's like we don't want to let go. It's like or that subject's like a teddy bear that every child loves. We don't want to be away from that subject. We obsess over it. And so that's why throughout history you have, a lot of geniuses that in their field had special needs because they latched onto a subject they didn't want to let go. They had like that they just were so attached to it. They made it like their spouse. It's really like it's like the closest thing they have to a really like, powerful attachment. It's really hard to describe, but
Yeah.
it's really an extreme example of like, what when people say that they want to go, beyond for something, but on the other hand, these are the same individuals that are like horrible at other subjects, and they're like, I don't care. You know what? Because that other subject reminds me of how inadequate I feel, and I want to go away from that.
That is so interesting what you're saying, because first of all, it's the question of am I good enough? It brings that up, which is so important for self-esteem, right? Self-worth. And second of all, the idea that we move away from pain, we move away from anything that is uncomfortable, and we try to soothe ourselves. What were some of the ways that you would soothe yourself from pain,
Well,
from something that the teachers wanted you to do and you did not want to do because you felt uncomfortable or you couldn't go there?
Well, I had a stress ball. That was what helped me. I had a stress ball. I had Play-Doh. It was very tactile for me, whether it was a stuffed animal, Play-Doh, usually it was a stuffed animal, Play-Doh, or a stress ball that I need to hold in my hand. I feel that something was there next to me
Yeah.
that made me feel good. And again, even a picture would have helped me, like whether it's a picture of a family member that I liked. Again, it has to be a symbol. It has to be something where, or sometimes I'd wear a good luck baseball cap. I'm a big Yankees fan. So when I was a kid in the 90s, I would wear my Yankees baseball cap like almost all the time because it made me feel safe, like I was invincible. And the Yankees in the 90s were winning World Series after World Series. So
Yeah.
for me, it's like I was protected by the spirit of victory.
Yes, yes. You were kind of invoking it, right?
Yes.
Yeah. And so when you talk about something that feels good, can you move into that felt sense? Like, can you move into how does it make your body, your mind, your thoughts? How is it soothing?
Well, you know what? It's it's like having a best friend. When you have a good luck sign or stress relief, it's
Yeah.
like you're not alone.
Yes. Yeah, you're not alone. And so your journey in as a student with a disability started in kindergarten, would you say? Or earlier? When did you notice there was something different about you?
Well, that's a good question. It's actually a combination of yourself and your parents. Your
Ah,
parents being the adults giving you more greater awareness. All I know is that my parents they put me my first school was Lycée Français, the French private school. They
yeah,
want to be, which is, my parents meant well, they wanted me to get a great education,
yeah,
and but for me, it was very stuffy, and I had to wear those uncomfortable little suits.
yes,
And if you're special needs, I had stimulation issues. So for me, I was already uncomfortable going in.
yeah,
So so that's like strike one, and then strike two. You know, even though French was actually my first language. So yeah, not English. So, but then it's like okay, my learning disability, speech and language processing delay. So then you had language barriers.
yeah,
So, and again, not my parents' fault. They had a unique child. I was their
yeah,
firstborn, so
yeah,
they're trying to get things right. And so so I just knew at that time when I was in Lycée Français, like I don't know how to communicate with the other students. Does everything, all the subjects seemed really frightening, so I would disengage. I would just shut down. I
mm,
would just not. I would not look at the board. I would just do. I would just detach. And that's the thing. Initially, I would, and you could ask probably any special needs adult when if you ask them their childhood experiences before they were put in special ed, they felt disconnected and they did whatever they could to escape. Like they'd be physically present in the classroom, but mentally they would check out.
hmm
You know,
right,
or among their peers. they would just, again, not want to talk to anyone. A lot of times I would just push others away. I'd be like, leave me alone.
Right.
Like, go away.
Because you would say, leave me alone because,
Because 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 I did not want to be reminded. I felt like an alien from out of space.
Hmm. And what would have, so that is, thank you so much for that insight. Even though the children were curious about just the way we are curious about some friends, that's how friendships begin. Like, I'm really interested in this person and I'm curious about them. But for you, anybody was too much because you felt like an alien. And what is it that made you feel like an alien? Was it the itchy clothing? Was it the fact that you had to speak French? But by the way, you were born in New York. Your parents are English speaking. Your first language was French? How does that work?
Well, because my mom wanted me to, she wanted me to be bilingual. So French was my first language, but also she taught me English at the same time. So I was learning two languages. Again, she meant well. Like being bilingual is a massive advantage in today's world. And so, again,
She was French?
yeah, my mom was born in France.
Oh, I see. And now I understand the connection. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Okay. And your dad spoke French also with her?
Oh no, he's horrible at French. He grew up in Brooklyn. He
Okay, okay, I get that. Yeah. Yeah. So at what, so tell me more about feeling like an alien in when you were in fifth grade. So did you feel like an alien before you went to the school as well?
um well, we're talking about lycée français, preschool. So yes, even before then, it's like I was always in my room where like everyone when people would try to talk to me, I would not make eye contact. I avoided eye contact like the plague.
Right.
Oh boy, like I loved being in my fantasy world. So that's why I loved like whenever my mom I was happiest when my mom would, take me to my grandparents' home and we'd put on a Disney movie
Yeah.
and I just loved those animated movies. Then my eyes would open up, and I had very big wide eyes at the time, and so I would be like, it's like I was in my own world. Anything that just kind of put me in a fantasy world, I would just gravitate towards it. I loved animated movies, cartoons.
Yeah.
It just put me in a very safe area, and I just loved anything that was tactile. Like I loved Legos. I loved, Lincoln Logs. I loved toy soldiers,
Yes.
toy cars.
Well, that's really interesting because I mean, you can love Legos, but people frightened you, but you liked figurines. You liked toy figures, right?
Yes.
Because how was that different?
Well, well. Number one, they didn't. They were harmless. That was the thing.
Ah, I
They
see.
were inanimated, and also as also I felt I could control them. That was another thing.
I see. I see. Yeah. They couldn't hurt you, right?
Exactly.
You must have somehow before you went to school or even before you went to your grandparents, something must have frightened you. Some interactions must have frightened you. What would that have been?
Well, the thing was, I came from, I had my parents loved having a lot of people over.
Yeah,
Like so, and again, mostly family members, which was great. And again, as a kid, I always loved all my family members. So I always had a great connection. But if it was a whole room full of people, it's
yeah,
like, okay, I needed to maybe just be with one person,
yeah, 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 yeah,
and,
yeah,
and them getting to know me individually. And that's when I had the most impact. That's when it's like I had a grandma, when my grandmothers, my grandfathers, when I got to spend one-on-one time with them, that's when I kind of let my guard down. I stopped looking within myself. I started to come out my shell out.
Yeah, yeah.
Only when I was with someone one-on-one. That was it. That was the trick. And my grandparents knew this more than anybody. They just had this natural empathy that it's like, wow, this he Fabio really comes to life when I'm just sitting down, just in a room with him by ourselves,
Yeah.
and I got to talk. I That's when I started talking actually a little bit.
What age was that?
Um, just I said a few. I didn't know many words. That was the thing. In preschool, I spoke very just a little bit of words, but you know, I I always was I'd play board games. That was the key. And my grandfather, my father's father, had I had the strongest relationship with him out of all my grandparents because he played checkers with me. He's the one who taught me checkers.
I see. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So the fact that, and I think that, in my opinion, when you do a one-on-one activity with someone, that's one way of really getting intimate with someone. You get to know who they are a little bit, you
I see.
know, and knowing how someone plays is like, good. It's a really good mirror to another human being.
Yeah.
So, and so now he was very old school though. He never let me win a game. He played me on hard mode all the time, so he won every single game. And
Oh,
but you know what? I didn't. I was like, it made me more determined, and he realized that I had a fire inside of me that I just wanted to keep playing again, even though I lost every single time. You know.
understood. Mm-hmm. Right. All right. Well, this has been very, very rich, that the insight into how you felt, the different settings, what would have made you feel better, and what did make you feel better. And so you knew you were slightly different when you were around 3 or 4, as soon as you
Yes.
language, or even before, if you have any memory of that.
You know what? Good question. I was very much someone who's I just remember even at that age, I was always in my own world a lot.
Hmm.
Because again, language was something that didn't when language doesn't come to you naturally, you see like it's very easy to see like new people as a potential outsider or at worst a threat.
Mm,
So you really a person, you need to spend individual time one-on-one with that person for me to really get comfortable, at least start to at least get some level of comfort with that person.
right, right. And so I just want our viewers to know that we're going to have more than one video uh, conversation like this. But just to entice everybody, you created a mission as a result of your experience. Can you tell us a little bit about your mission? And I know that you're collaborating the Chessability New York City. You've connected with other specialized schools. And can you tell us a little bit about that as well? So, how have you turned your life experience? How are you using that to make it better for other students with disabilities? And then which schools have you connected to? And you're telling me that you're creating a curriculum for schools as well. So tell us about that.
Well, some of the schools that I work at, include and the two ones that I'm really close to are the Parkside School and the Windward School. Parkside because I used to go to that school as a kid,
Yeah,
and Crainham, I teach their morning program, chess, on Wednesday mornings. And for me, that was a big one because again, that was my first special needs school.
yeah,
And they didn't have a chess program when I was a kid there,
yeah,
I had to join my brother's school at PS6 when I learned to play chess. So I was like, again, I was, probably the only kid there that didn't go to the school that was allowed to play chess because I was I was the brother of my brother.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
So I was an exception, and I also was a good student there. I wasn't a wise guy. I was hyper focused. Again, special needs kids, when we love something and when we feel listened to, we hyper focus. So we improve, we can improve rapidly as a result.
Right, right.
So and also the Windward School, because again, I had one of the kids that I taught privately, their mother had a connection to the school, uh, and so it happened to be Windward. And Windward is really wonderful because they just really they really want to educate the whole student
Yeah,
and see where they are. And what I like is that they don't put any pressure on the kids to succeed. They strive. They want the kids to strive for excellence without putting pressure on them, which
nice.
is great. So
Yes.
it's a very like low key. No pressure, but we're gonna make sure you're at your best. That kind of school, which is great. And so that's why, and the staff. That's why the staff is so friendly, and they always, you always want to feel welcome anytime you walk into a school building or any environment. If people make you feel welcome there, you just look forward to coming there.
Yes.
And again, like I have a lot of kids in both those schools. Windward, I've averaged like 14 kids. So
Wow. Is that an after school program that you?
after school.
Okay. And how young?
Um, you know, we've got as young as kindergarten,
Okay.
so we have, and and now some of these kids are like, like 7 to 10 years old. So, and it's great is that like, when you start a school, you want to build a veteran presence, so that everyone's on the same page. Like you don't have to keep starting from scratch. And of course, if you have, when you've done a program for a number of years and you have veteran students, you don't always have to go to, point A, you
Yes.
could start at like, point, G, for example, and then for newer kids, you kind of bring them along, you work with them one on one, to
Yes.
catch them up.
Yes.
But
Exactly. Yes. Yeah.
yeah.
And so you're, obviously you're teaching your passion, which is chess. But I mean, chess is always something that I've wanted to learn, and hopefully you're going to teach me. Good luck. But chess is such a strategic game, and I think it can help your concentration, planning ahead, executive functions. I mean, have you noticed that teaching chess also has an effect on the students' abilities academically?
Oh yeah, absolutely. It definitely helped me academically, but I've noticed that all the kids that I've taught at, you see how they improve. They first of all, they improve long-term and short-term memory. They improve creativity. Their spatial reasoning goes through the roof. They they improve their critical thinking and analytical skills and problem solving skills. They do better in certain subjects like mathematics
Yes.
and especially mathematics, but also in terms of read. They also do better just all subjects in particular, but and also pattern recognition, which is very useful.
Yes.
There's a number of areas. That's why chess is part of the curriculum in a few dozen countries around the world for that reason.
Oh, okay. Okay, understood. Yeah. Well, I can't get enough of our interview and the information that you have, but fortunately, you've agreed to come back, and we have so much to talk about. We just touched preschool, elementary school. We haven't talked about middle school and high school, your experience in middle school and high school, and we certainly haven't discussed your higher education at Trinity College, where you graduated with a bachelor's degree in political science and entrepreneurship. So we'll be back and we'll be talking about that and more. So
All
thank
right.
you so much. I appreciate you. I appreciate your time. And I look forward to talking with you soon.
All right. Have a good one. Thank you very much.
Take care. Bye bye.
Bye.